Hi, everyone. My next guest is Mina Levitis, who is Miss Uni International and had a last minute detour to a fairly significant pageant, which she's wearing across her chest, which we'll get to in a second. I'll just read out her bio before we get started. So, Mina is a successful pageant consultant specializing in interview preparation and leadership development for aspiring contestants. With a background in award winning leadership, education, and pageantry, she uses her expertise to empower individuals through affordable and customized coaching both online and in her premier NYC spaces. Recently crowned the first ever Miss Uni International, Mina competed against over 20 nations in an online competition, showcasing her passion for inspiring confidence and excellence in others. Well, Mina, welcome to the show. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm so excited to finally sit down and chat.
It's been a while. We've been chatting, obviously, back and forth behind the scenes. Now, the bio had when I publicized it and when you signed up, it was as Miss Uni International, and obviously you've had a bit of a detour to a very little known pageant called Miss Universe. Do you want to tell people what happened there?
Well, yeah, so I'm crowned Miss Uni International, and then just a couple days later, I see a post I did not expect to see that a director had franchised Miss Universe Israel, and that's not something I expected to see anytime soon because if you may not know, Israel was not part of the Miss Universe pageant for 3 years now. They just did not have a franchise. So it was a big dream of mine for a long time, but I just did not think it was gonna happen anytime soon. And then when I saw that post, I'm like, "Is this fake?" And I just, let it simmer. I just won an international pageant, and I'm totally content and happy with that. And then I just get like I'm being active on this Miss Universe Israel page because I'm interested, and I'm
Of
just like
course.
in my head ready to follow along Miss Universe Israel, whoever she is. And then I start, commenting, whatever, interacting, and the director reaches out and he's like, "You should apply," pretty much. Or he's like, "I sent you an email to apply," and then I actually at first, and I mentioned this, that I at first told the organization that I'm too busy with school, which is true. I'm too busy with school and work. I work as a paralegal, which I don't talk about because it's not so exciting. But I work as a paralegal. I'm pursuing law school. I'm a busy girl, and I just won an international pageant. So Miss Universe was like nowhere in my vision, And that's pretty much what I told the director at first, and he sent back a sad face emoji. So I was like, that is not the response I want, and I want to be on their good side. So I basically I thought about it for a day, and I told my very excited family. And they right away were like, "Are you joking? You just said no to Miss Universe Israel. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, like, are you feeling okay, Mina?" And I'm like, "Guys, it doesn't sound on the plate for me." Like, I keep going back and forth on this, but after talking to my family, and they're basically like, "You have to do it." I wrote back to the director and I said, let's have an interview, like the initial casting call, let's do it. And I spoke to them really briefly, told them why I want to be Miss Universe Israel. And I basically told them a very generic line that I've been dreaming about it for a long time, which is true. And I can't say that, I'm not from Israel. I don't have such a deep connection to there. I've been there once in my life, but
Mhm.
especially with what's happened this year, I dropped my phone, especially with what just happened this year. I really wanted to paint Israel in a positive light. And just thought, whether I win or not, I want to be here and I want to show Israel in my cutesy, positive, happy light. And that is exactly what I did. I told the directors on the call, and then they told me that day, "Well, guess what, girl? Are you ready to book a flight right now? Because the pageant is tomorrow. You got to come in tomorrow." And I was like, "Yes, you know what? I'm not going to go back and forth anymore." So I said yes. And I'm so glad I did. I don't know, like, I would probably be mad at myself forever if I stuck to my initial decision, to be honest. And I didn't, see it at first, but it was the best pageant experience I've ever had, even though I didn't win. It was the best experience ever to be with my girls. I truly felt at home. Again, even though I'm not Israeli, I felt so at home. And the director, the team, the girls, everything was amazing, and we were really all treated like queens. So no matter what, I'm so glad I went, and I get to carry the title of Miss Jerusalem, which is big. It's the capital of
Mm.
Israel. So I plan to do a lot of work with the title. Again, I just got it, so it's all new and exciting, but I would love to work with Israeli and Jewish communities and organizations and help rebuild after October 7th, and as well as expand on my platform, which is um, providing educational equity, which is hard, and it's a big promise to make. But I think that, one step at a time, we could all make an effort to help a child in need of education. So we can help donate, we can help tutor, we can volunteer. So this is a thing. This is something I wanted to expand into my title for Miss
Mm.
Universe Israel. And I've recently found out that 1 in 3 Israeli children actually lack access to quality education. So it's something that I'm now aware of and going to start working on.
I mean, how much of a I mean, what did it mean to you to get that sash on across your chest that both says Israel and Jerusalem? Jerusalem, as you mentioned, being the capital. I mean, given everything that's happened over the past year, because I want to be mindful, it is October 7th, so that's obviously a 1 year anniversary of an event that I think everyone can agree we wish never had happened and never should have happened. I mean, given all that, it must have meant a lot to wear that sash and also, Jerusalem across your chest.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, it means a lot, and a lot that you can't even put into words. It actually felt like heavy, like when I looked around the room and I saw we all have these beautiful sashes and we're all here to celebrate and be happy and be proud of being Israeli. But at the same time, we're receiving threats online when we post anything. We can't even share the location to our friends and family, and and so on. And we're all sitting with these yellow pins that we don't really want to be wearing because we don't want to be in this situation. To be we don't want hostages, and period. So
Yeah.
it was supposed to be, it was a very positive experience, but it was still sad to be it was hard to be sitting there during October, remembering the atrocities that our people went through just about a year ago, and actually throughout the whole year. It never really ended, throughout the year.
No.
So to sit there and try to celebrate and be happy with all the circumstances, it was hard, but we partied like it's Tel Aviv, and we were happy, and it meant a lot. That's all I can say, because there's no words to describe it. I felt like I was honoring a heritage that I don't really have. I'm not Israeli. I'm a Ukrainian Russian Jew, but still, it's the birthplace of our religion, of all religion. And I
Yeah.
mentioned that on my onstage answer. That Israel is the place where all religions come from, and all religions can get along in the Middle East, especially. So
Mm.
it's very special to me to carry Jerusalem, the capital, and the birthplace of the religion, Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So it's the holy city, and it means so much.
Yeah. Do you happen to know, and it's all right if you don't, the director obviously got the franchise. You said Miss Universe, Israel hasn't been in the Miss Universe competition for 3 years. Um, it seems like probably his choice to get the franchise was also somewhat last minute. Do you know, was it in any way motivated by everything that's gone on during the last year?
I'm not sure how much I can share, but
Okay.
I'll tell you the gist.
Yep.
Our main partner, Joseph, he is an amazing guy. He's a Jewish guy, and he partnered up with Edgar, the national director, last second, because he was Edgar, the national director. I'm guessing like any national director looking for funding and support and so
Mm.
on, because our national director is also, he's not Jewish or Israeli, so I think he was also looking for that, like, to consult with someone who is Jewish
Sure.
and Israeli. So he met with Joseph, I know, and I know that Joseph talked to all the girls about this on the first night, that he's really excited about this project and this time, because he said it a lot better, but it is because of this time. Um and the circumstances. He wants to paint it just kind of similar to what I said. He wants to paint
Yeah.
Israel in the more positive light, and he believes. I remember he said that he believes it's not right, or it's fair. It would be fair if all the girls got a chance to be included in this universe. for Israel to be included in Miss Universe. I think they were really just championing for that, for Israel to be included in Miss Universe, and that's pretty much what he told the girls.
Right.
Joseph,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, what are your plans? I mean, you mentioned some of the plans you have with the Miss Universe Jerusalem title. I mean, I'm just wondering at the moment, off the cuff, do you have any plans maybe to visit Israel, if that's possible?
100%. Yes. I'm gonna try to work on that shortly. And actually, I'm not sure if you are aware of the concept of birthright.
I've yes, actually,
Yeah,
now that
so
you
it's
mention it,
basically Jewish organizations and big Jewish investors. They invest in something called Birthright, and it is like a fund that they all put into for Jewish children. I think you can go up to age 25. I'm 20, so I
mhm,
can still qualify. Maybe it might be even a little later. Maybe it's like 28. I'm not sure. But
mhm,
basically, if you've never been to Israel, or I think maybe even if you've been to Israel, you have the right to this birthright trip, and they will organize it completely and fund it, and help you get there, and travel guides, and you have like a kind of like a camp, like you have like this group, and you all go on the stuff and explore Israel. So I'm definitely going to look into birthright and see if I'm eligible, even though I've been to Israel. If I'm not eligible, I'll still look into a trip to Israel. It's just very far, but
sure.
yeah. It's
I mean,
I haven't been there in a while, and of course it's very different now. And I've since October 7th, 2023, I've had the urge to go to Israel, of course, to help, to volunteer any way I could, and I know a lot of people in my
mhm.
community have, and it's big props to them. And yeah, I'm a little jealous. I want to go, but again, as I said, I'm a full-time student and I work at the law office, and I was so occupied with these pageants, and I never had a second. So I actually have not been on many vacations lately at all, but Israel is next on the list for sure.
I mean, you didn't mention your job. I know you said you didn't mention your job because it's not very exciting. I mean, I've interviewed more than a couple of lawyers in my pageant interviewing career, and it's interesting. A lot of them are very passionate about law, not necessarily, the law itself, but because they seem to come from it from a place of wanting to help other people. And so they're passionate because of what law can allow them to do. So is that similar? Was that kind of your motivation for getting into law as well?
Yeah, so I grew up in a family of lawyers. I know that's a Jewish stereotype, but I did grow up around law, and
It's
I've
okay. I come from a family of Asian doctors. So
yeah,
Asian doctors,
amazing.
Jewish lawyers,
Exactly.
it's fine.
That's exactly. So yeah, I grew up around law, and I know that it's really all about getting the client's problem solved, in simplest terms, and it comes from the heart, to really sit there all day after hours and know that you have deadlines and these clients are counting on you to purchase their house, to whatever, get their mortgage, whatever figured out, like whatever it is, their issue is, and it's like on you. It's a big responsibility, but it feels so good when you get the problem solved. And I think when I only started recently in law, it's like I'm a couple months in, but
Mhm.
I knew right away this is what I'm gonna pursue. I knew I'm gonna go to law school right when I started because I didn't think that people kind of talk about law, how it's like so scary and hard, which it can be, I'm sure. I'm sure many areas of law are, but at least what we do, real estate law, it's pretty interesting, and
Mm.
it's it's simple for me to understand. At least I know everyone's different, everyone's brain works different, but for me, I know I was actually doing nursing at first. That's what I was gonna pursue, and my brain was just not aligning. It was like no physics, no thank you. But I could sit and read papers all day, I can do the law work, and I found it really interesting. So I'm gonna definitely pursue law school. And that's again, I'm full of last minute choices, and I always mention in every pageant interview or in every bio sheet that I'm multifaceted or multi hyphenated, and that's because I really do change my mind, but I like to look at it in a different way. It's more like I explore every passion. And
Mm.
if I get into something, I go all in. So I get into
Yeah.
new things all the time and I get all in. And it's a big part of my personality.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think at your age, if you're not trying everything, then I think you've already died inside. I worked with young women growing up, and you'd meet some 13-year-olds who are mentally 80 years old, just given up on life, can't do this, can't do that. And then you meet
Oh, I
some
felt like that
80-year-olds
too
who are,
sometimes. Yeah, I felt like that too, you know? But it's good to pick yourself back up, you know?
yeah. But I mean, look, I mean, at your age, you definitely should be trying everything. But let me ask: the nursing to law is not a small, is it's not a small change. I mean, they're completely, when I think about it, completely polar opposite degree. What made you want to go
Well,
into
actually,
nursing in the
no, I'm
first
not
place?
sure how it works in, other countries, I don't know, but I feel like New York sometimes is like a different planet because we have something called the CUNY system, and, to get into a nursing program in New York, you first have to declare a different major and then get into a nursing program. So, I've
Oh,
never had a nursing major, because I didn't pursue the nursing program. Before that, I decided to switch to a business degree and then finish that out in a bachelor's and then pursue a law school. But right now I'm still halfway there and I'm working on it. But I'm 20 years old and I don't feel like any rush right now.
yeah. I mean, we've mentioned a lot. You've already mentioned the multifaceted being that you are. So, what's an average, not day, but let's say an average week? What is an average? I mean, you've had some very unaverage weeks recently, but what would be an average week for yourself?
Well, so go to school 2 times a week, but I have asynchronous and online courses as well. I'm a full-time student, but I go in person twice a week, and then I go into the law office 4 times a week. And my day there at the law office, not super exciting. Lots of filing, lots of reading, marking up contracts, coordinating with 100 people, and it could get a little stressful sometimes. So honestly, after a long day at the law office, I'm either like completely done, I'm in bed, or on some days I actually run a pageant coaching business, consultmina.com, and I take online and in-person clients. So if I get that random appointment after work, I'm so excited. I have a sudden
Mm,
burst of energy, and it's true. You can ask any girl who's ever worked with me. They will come into my house at 8:30 p.m. because some of my girls are also working and students, and I will be like, let's go, let's walk, let's interview, let's like I'm ready. So a week in my life, it's like always different, but the school and the law office remains the same. And then sometimes I throw in some pageant coaching or some of
mhm.
my own pageant preparations. So week in my life is always different. And of course, I have some hobbies. I actually love to draw and I love music, which is something I don't talk about at all. But since a kid, me and my brother grew up, playing instruments. He's a lot better than I am, but
Okay.
I love music and I love to draw. And I actually came out with a children's coloring book, but it's really for all ages. And I actually love to color in it too. And it has like these positive affirmations, and it's just like a coloring book where it have an animal, but it'll say like I am kind, I
Mm,
am grateful, I am deserving, but it's varying designs from very simple to more advanced. And it's something I love to do, color, music. And another thing I don't talk about is I've done some acting and some modeling, and it's something that I don't pursue. Like, it's not the top of my priorities at all, but it's something that I just keep getting pulled back into, like,
yeah.
but I love it. I love to model as well, and entertainment, it's fun for me.
How come you haven't had a chance to talk about all these things? It seems like 80, 90% of your life, you've never gotten a chance to talk about
No,
it.
I do talk about it, but not like publicly. I mean, like my friends know, but I feel like
Okay.
people who might be watching this from my Instagram are like, "Who is this?" Like they're like, "What do you mean you draw and you like?" Because I don't talk about this or I don't post much. I feel like if you
Okay.
go on my Instagram, you'll think I'm just like a one-dimensional pageant girl, and
Right.
and then when you start talking to me, you're like, "Oh my God, she's the bubble is
Okay.
bursting. Like you're like,
All right.
oh.
Well, I mean, it's public now, Mina. I mean, you've put it out there, so you can no longer say you haven't
Oh,
spoken
well,
about it.
anyone who's seen me at a pageant has seen this mode, or of course, all my girls who work with me have seen me in this mode. But just, the Instagram people, like, they have not seen this Mina. And yeah, I'm proud, I'm happy. And I love being multifaceted because it's like you don't get boring, you don't get bored of
Yeah.
anything.
Tell me about hard work. What's your attitude to hard work? Because it seems very ingrained in the person that you are.
So hard work in what context? Like school or like
Just
actual
in
work
general.
in
Just in
general?
general.
So I like to work hard, but I also like to tell everyone because I've had some girls tell me I coach a lot of teenagers, a lot of teens, and or a lot of like young miss. And I know for me and for a lot of them, it could get overwhelming with especially a pageant girl schedule where things can be uncertain. You'll have like random orientations, or you'll randomly have to get something done for your pageant, and it could be like an uncertain schedule. So
Mhm.
for me, hard work actually like keeps me in line and check. It's like, oh, when I have my schedule for work or for school, it's like, okay, I could sit down and do the hard work.
How much of that came from your parents?
Oh yeah, my parents are really hardworking, of course. I feel like all immigrant parents, but yeah, my parents, my grandparents, and I come from a really hardworking family that really value education and work. And it's been ingrained in me from an early age. I actually just had
Yeah.
a phone call earlier with my dad. He's like the best. He keeps me in line. He's like, "So how are you doing with school? Are we like going to law school? Are we still on that? Like, don't change your mind." Like we just had that call again today. So I have great parents who ingrained that hardworking mentality into me.
How much do you know about your parents' journey? Because as you mentioned, immigrants, and you already mentioned Ukrainian, Russian. So that's not exactly close to, New York in the United States. So how did they go from that side of the world to the side of the world you're on now?
So I should know more details. I know. I'm so sorry. If they're watching this, they're like, "Oh, she doesn't listen." They've told me the stories for sure, but I know that it
Right.
wasn't an easy voyage. I know that. And I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, my dad told me that they had to travel through other countries, like through
Yeah.
Italy or through, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to double check with him and get back to you guys on that. But I know it wasn't easy. And I know especially leaving Soviet Russia as Jews was not easy, or being there also as Jews was
Mm.
not easy. And I know a lot of like funny stories from all over the Jewish community of underground weddings and stuff like that, like things that they weren't allowed
Wow.
to have, like a Jewish wedding
Yeah.
or yeah. So I hear a lot of stories from the USSR, and I should definitely be paying. They told me a lot of this when I was little, and I didn't even know what they were talking about. So I'm gonna have to ask again, but I know it wasn't
Okay.
easy.
That's all right. How's your Russian?
Ну, хорошо. Я стесняюсь, I get shy. It's good, but I get shy when I speak in Russian because, of course, being in America, growing up here and living, I've been born and raised here, and I've went to school with, all Americans, and I definitely lost some Russian, but I feel like everyone I speak to, they tell me I have a Russian accent a little bit when I speak in English, maybe
I could see that.
a little bit.
Yeah, maybe I could see
Because
that.
I did grow up speaking it, with my being around my grandma and like my parents came here when they were teenagers. They went to high school in America, my parents. So they became, more Americanized, and I
Yeah.
think I just grew up around too much English, but my Russian is good. Just it could be better. It could be better. I get
What
shy
do, what
when I speak.
does That's fair enough. I put you on the spot. What does your dad do for a living? I remember you sent me a photo. Is he like a radio? I remember a
Yeah,
microphone in
so
front of him. What does he do?
yes. I don't know why did we get into that conversation, but
I think it was because you said that you took after your mother in terms of
Oh,
the
right,
way you look.
you told me I look like my mom, and I was like, "Wait, you need to see my dad because I look like my dad." Right,
Right. Okay.
so my dad, just like me, very multifaceted and very multi-hyphenated. He's an attorney. He also manages, law firms, multiple, and he's big into PR and, radio. He's had a Russian radio show. I think he may even still be doing that. I don't know. I sometimes I like just me and him, we lose track of each other. We get lost in the craziness, you know. But he is also just like me, always on something else, but still very passionate about everything he does, you know. I
Yeah.
definitely get that from him. But yeah, he's everything. And he also, since I was a child, he ran a big Facebook group for the Russian community in New York. And he's
Okay.
done like, you know, a lot of events and advertising and I don't know, he's done a lot of stuff for the Russian community, and you should definitely interview him. He'll tell you better. But he does a lot, yeah.
Okay, so then next question, is your mum the sane one in the family then? Because you're insane. Your dad sounds equally insane. Is your mum like the grounded normal person?
She is definitely the more grounded one out of all of us, but she is also really interesting. I mean, she went to FIT, Fashion Institute, in New York, and she loves design. She's always been really into fashion, designing, and it's actually not what she ended up pursuing. She ended up pursuing
Mhm.
real estate just because it was good the Russian community and here in New York, and she's also like she's multifaceted, but definitely a little less insane. And she tells both of us to slow down all the time, you know. Slow down, but not
So
too much.
what?
Like she's like, stay passionate, rooting for you, but like don't go crazy.
Stay passionate, but be a bit less crazy. Well, what is it like when like all of you get together and you're talking? Is it just your dad and you talking about the latest crazy idea, and your mum just like slow
Oh
down,
my
slow
god.
down, slow
Yeah.
down?
Oh yeah. It's mostly my dad. Like if you think I'm a talker, oh, it's mostly my dad.
Well, I mean, he hosts a radio show, so well,
Oh yeah,
hosted
he's
slash
great.
host.
Like I envy his like speaking skills and his social skills. Like he can be he's friends with literally everyone he meets, and he's the best. Like I try to take him to every pageant because he just becomes friends with everyone. You know, like it's like yes, talk to everyone, be friends. You know.
That's really cool though, because very often you take your partner or you take your dad, especially, to a pageant, and I joke that I can always tell who are the partners and who are the mainly the partners, because you can always see them having no idea what to do in the corner and looking very very awkward amongst all these beautiful, tall, glammed up girls.
That's so
But I mean,
funny.
you raise an important point. I need to ask you, how did you get into the world of pageantry?
Wow. So that is a great
So here we
question,
go.
and
Buckle up.
I'm surprised I haven't really been asked this much. So I grew up watching Miss Universe, just like every other little girl. I grew up watching Miss Universe with my mom every year, and my mom actually was in a pageant. She was Miss Russian speaking New York.
Oh wow.
And um so we watch pageants. As I said, she's very fashionista and she loves that stuff. And we both love entertainment and being in the modeling, acting world. And this kind of like falls under that umbrella, right? The entertainment. So it came up 2023, which sounds like it's 100 years ago, but just last year actually. I entered Miss New York USA, my first pageant, and how did I come across that? I think just on Instagram, I
Yeah.
saw that they were like taking applicants, so I applied, and my mom was so excited. Like that was the most excited she's ever been about the pageant. It was my first ever one because she didn't expect me to do it. I don't know why. I guess she didn't see it coming, but
Okay.
I entered that pageant and I got the pageant bug. I'm sure you've heard this story a lot. I got the pageant bug and I immediately wanted to do more, but my parents were like, calm down, slow down. You're not going to become a full on pageant girl. You have work and you have school and you
Yeah.
have this and that. And I'm like, I was fighting for it from day one. I was like, look at all these pageant girls. They're in school, they're at work. Some are doctors, some are lawyers, some are. And I was really like showing them Miss USAs and Miss Universes that have become so successful and that were already successful and everything. And I really like changed their mind a little bit about the pageant stuff. And they're like, okay, pursue it, you do you. But just for the record, I did do all like the funding and sponsorship
Oh
fees for
wow.
all my pageants myself. And
Yep.
they were very supportive, but they're like, pageants are so much money, and that's something we don't talk about a lot. But pageants can be so much money, and I definitely had to fundraise, get some sponsorships, and pursue my next pageants. And then, as I said, got the pageant bug, started to play, started to win, and then I started to look into like what more can I do with this other than just being
Mm,
a contestant. And I really did want to like in the future become a pageant director or just be
yeah.
on like that administrative side, the other side of pageantry. It's like a passion. I just have this dream where I'm gonna make the most fair pageant, the the most nice pageant. And it's since then I was just thinking about how am I going to get there? And of course you could just buy a franchise and become a director. That's
Yeah.
also an option. But I
Yeah.
want to do it the skilled way. You can't go to pageant school. So what I decided to do was I started to pageant coach and I told girls, I'm the go-to girl for your first pageant if you have like just a ton of questions and you're lost. A lot of teens entering their first pageant, I'm your go-to girl. And
Mm.
that's just how it started. And now I feel like more confident in the pageant world, even though I've only been in it for a year. I feel like this is my life. Like, well,
Yeah.
aside from the school and the work, this is like my biggest hobby outside of that. And I'm going to keep pursuing the pageant coaching and one day hopefully be a director.
I can't believe you've only been doing this for a year. I
Yes,
thought
I
that,
know. I
given
can't
everything
believe
you
it either.
it feels like you've been doing this for 10 years. I got to say,
I
like, I've been keeping an eye on doing, becoming a director as well. And I do think that your approach is the right one. Like, I've been offered directorships before and I've turned them down because either I don't align with the system or I don't feel like I know enough. And I think if you're going to be a director, I think learning more about the business behind it I think is very important. It's all very well and good to say, you want yours to be fair. You want yours. I mean, everyone starts a pageant, I think, wanting it to be fair. I don't think anyone I hope no one starts a pageant going, I'm going to rig this thing down to the ground. But I
I've
think
heard
learning,
some crazy stories. I've heard some crazy
yeah,
stories. I could tell you.
I've heard a lot of stories as well. But
Yeah.
it's just like, I think a lot of sometimes the problems that pageants run into, I think a lot of them come down to the fact that the directors don't know how to run a business and really struggle to get money and market and do the networking like we've already discussed. And when you're struggling on that end, it's very easy to do things in, let's say, not an optimal or ideal way. So I think directorship, I mean, I've noticed that very often the best directors are former pageant
Yes.
girls.
I was just gonna say that. Yes, it's so true.
Yeah,
100%. But
because
I
we
could also say my experience at Miss Universe Israel was amazing, and I know no one's paying me to say that, but just for any
mm,
girls be on the lookout, if it's the same director, it was a really good experience, even though he's not a pageant girl. But yeah,
mm,
I've had some pageants where the director was a former pageant girl, and I totally see what you're saying. They've been in in the contestant shoes
yeah.
before, so of course it's different.
Yeah, I think it sounds like with Miss Universe Israel, obviously a lot of it was a heart based kind of given everything that's happened over the last year. And I think when you do it almost coming from a place of service, I think that's a really good thing. You're going to do it because it's the right thing to do and it means something personal to you rather than trying to do it for profit. I don't know how I feel about pageants really running as a profit first business. I'm not sure of how well that can be done but I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of a weird time for pageantry because there's a lot of talk about. I mean, it's been going on ever since you would have entered. It's like, how do we keep pageants relevant, etc., etc. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? Because that's a question that comes up all the time.
Right. So I have a lot of thoughts on that, right? But I'm not sure, I think, of course, are you asking me if I think pageants are relevant or?
Well, no, I would certainly hope you do because
Yeah, yeah.
otherwise you wouldn't be doing it. But like, for example, I've been interviewing a lot of the girls heading over to Miss International and Miss International in Japan. Its motto or its theme for this year is sustainability in pageantry, which I'm not exactly sure because girls have interpreted that differently. But one girl said, well, it's about keeping pageantry sustainable, as in making sure it's still around next year. And I would say, hopefully, better next year than this year because you always want to be trending up rather than down. But I think the question is how do we keep pageants relevant, or how can we? I don't know if former glory days is the right way of saying it, but how can we build pageantry?
Yeah. So I feel like former glory days, as I was saying, I grew up watching Miss Universe and Miss USA. I feel like they were the same caliber, back in the
Yeah,
day. And
yeah,
I remember seeing, a lot of people can say a lot of people have seen the Miss USAs or Miss Universes at these red carpet events everywhere at all these entertainment gigs and all these, big gigs and big
Mm,
opportunities that we do not see lately with any pageant system. Like, I just not the same caliber.
yeah.
Um, for sure. And it's weird because maybe it's is it because everything is oversaturated on social media? Like, they're like, oh, we already see this girl all over her Instagram and everything. Like, who cares to interview her? I really don't know what it could be, but maybe it could be that it's just been oversaturated on social media. But I never really thought
It could
about
be.
it, how to keep it relevant, because then I was gonna say, oh, we should post about it and post about it on social media. But then I'm thinking, is that actually the reason it became less relevant? I don't know.
I mean, I do think the rise of social media has diluted pageantry somewhat
That's the
because
word. Yes, diluted. Yeah.
because people ask me, well, I think a lot anyway about what's the point of pageantry. Because I think everything you're going to do in pageantry, you need to know the purpose of pageantry. And for me, the idea of pageantry fundamentally is you look amazing, so you get attention, and then you use that attention for a greater good. To me, that's
Exactly.
fundamentally what it's about.
That
But then when I
is
was thinking about
fundamental.
that,
That is, yeah. And I think
well,
it's
that's like an influencer in a way. I mean, influencers can influence you to buy clothes from terrible places, or they could influence you like for socially motivated projects. So, but then I think the problem is social media now has so many influences, and I think that might be one of the
maybe
problems.
that is it, yeah. Because people are idolizing their TikToker or Instagram, like, favorite Instagrammers
Yeah.
over their local Miss whatever. And I think, yeah, I think that's for sure.
Yeah. But I think perhaps what sets pageant girls apart is, or I mean, you've mentioned several things that you want to do in terms of education equity and things like that. And that's something you don't often see influencers do. Sometimes, obviously, you do. But I think pageant girls, the philanthropic aspect sets them apart. And so, why don't we delve into that more? The education equity. I mean, you mentioned the 1 in 3 children in Israel
That's
statistic to me,
something
but
I
yeah.
recently found out about, yeah. So, of course, I've been competing in USA systems and never thought I would do the, international or represent Israel or anything like that. But I was always looking into the statistics within the United States or within my communities within New York. And definitely New York has been facing some disparities with underprivileged communities and communities, people of color. And it's it's an issue that's targeting, like, it's targeting a lot of people. And for me, it started as I started tutoring actually for many years
Hmm.
before I worked as a paralegal. And it was something that I wanted to implement, as a broke college student who didn't have much money to donate. It's like, what can I do for the community? So free tutoring and free mentorship was where it started. And I think that was also the pipeline to becoming a pageant coach that I
Yeah.
just didn't really think about. But it's that mentorship and the passion for teaching. So it started with that, and then I thought about how can we get more people involved, and I would like to have on a team of mentors and tutors, and it could be online. And also, added onto my page on my website a page to donate, and they would go towards educational kits that you can see on
Hmm.
my Amazon, also as well in my Instagram. And it would be backpacks and notebooks and things that are essential for children to go to school successfully. And it's a project that it started, community, and now I'm trying to take it worldwide, especially
Yeah.
now that I'm going to be pursuing the title of Miss Israel again. Surprise. It's definitely something I'm looking to expand on globally.
What do you think? I mean, you mentioned that you were a tutor and that probably, led to pageant coaching, which is not a surprise. What do you think the key to being a good coach, a good tutor, or a good teacher is?
I think being really patient, and I don't mean, sometimes people say that, like, "Oh, you gotta be patient. These kids will kill you," like, whatever. I don't mean it like that. It's like sometimes people have, real problems. They get, as I mentioned earlier, people will get overwhelmed during sessions, during tutoring, or during pageant
Mm,
coaching, just because they'll start thinking about everything else going on in life, and how am I gonna prepare for this test? How am I gonna prepare for this pageant? How am I gonna do both? And it's a struggle, and it's something, that pains me to see as a coach. And I think for sure being overwhelmed, it's something that they struggle with. But I'm sorry, I need water.
That's okay. I think we could all do with a bit more water. Let
I
me
had a
ask you
voice crack and
this.
then the earring fell at the same time, and then I got
Well,
sidetracked.
let me ask you this whilst you put your earring back in. I mean, those are really nice earrings as well. Where are those earrings from?
These are from Shein. Shout out. They always have the great last minute pageant finds actually.
Just whilst you're doing that, Roxana here. I don't know if you know Roxana. She has said beautiful
Hi.
queen. Um, Mina, when people come to you for pageant coaching, where do you begin? Like how do you, because every, from my experience anyway, every client is different. Everyone has different needs. So how do you begin when you have someone show up?
So I have an outline that everyone fills out before their initial consultation, and it outlines it has some questions like, of course, tell me about yourself, school and education background, work, list any fun facts about yourself. Pretty simple stuff. Just to it's kind of like that judge's bio sheet, very
Yeah.
similar. And that's what I have girls fill out just to get the gist of where they're at first, and then from their first consultation, I will get a gist of their confidence. That's really my like main thing. It's instilling confidence and also like
Yeah.
helping girls that are just getting into pageantry feel less overwhelmed. That's a word I use a lot because I felt overwhelmed with work, with school, with pageants, with everything. So a lot of girls come to me struggling with that. And as I said earlier, you need to have a lot of patience, hear
Mm.
everyone out, and that's really just where it starts, hearing everyone out. Everyone comes with a completely unique story and background, just as you said. So I get the gist of where they're at, and everyone is different. So some girls are starting from point one, and I
Yeah.
really gotta tell them everything and get them all set up with everything. And then some girls are just coming to me to like tweak their pageant walk. So everyone is different. And I start the first consultation with just getting a gist of where they're at and having them do a little homework. I actually then give like these generic pageant questions like um what would you like to do with your platform, or stuff like that, just like 5 questions, and then they do a little homework, and then on the next session we look at those questions. I'm giving you a little
Yeah.
some of my secrets here, but we'll look at those questions and then I'll make them say their answers, in front of me, and we will work on perfecting it, the vocabulary, the delivery, and again, the main thing I work on is confidence. So I
Yeah.
make sure every girl has a strong voice and feels ready to talk.
Do you have any keys or secrets? Maybe not secrets. We don't want you to divulge your secrets, but obviously confidence is a massive issue, not just for pageant contestants, but I think just people in general. So when you say confidence, and obviously that's a key to your coaching, do you give the girls any particular way to engage that confidence?
So I give them a lot, but I can say one thing that definitely can resonate with anyone is, I know it's how do you say it? I know it's cliche, but it's to be authentic, because I see a lot of girls come into pageantry and they like pick one pageant girl they've seen before to copy exactly how they speak,
Oh,
exactly what they
right.
stand for. And no, it happens a lot. And I feel like maybe even a little bit I started like that, just maybe how do you say, unconscious, what do you say, consciously, not
Yeah,
conscious, subconscious.
subconsciously.
Yes, subconsciously, maybe I also mirrored some pageant girls. But yeah, a lot of girls do that. They like completely take on a persona of, and I'm like, why are you being Arbany Gabriel right now? Like exactly what she says, stuff like that. So I tell every girl, no matter where they're at, you have to be authentic. And even a lot of girls struggle with like the question, tell me about yourself. I've struggled with that
Hmm.
at the beginning of pageantry, because it's like a broad question, but it's also like, how much can I tell you? And like I want to make
Yeah.
sure I tell you the right things and all that stuff. So I tell them, no matter what, just be authentic. Don't make things up. Don't try to take on another
Yeah.
persona, because some girls definitely do that. But yeah, you won't be able to talk about it then if you're making things up. So I tell girls, avoid that. Be
Yeah.
authentic.
No,
Be
you
authentic
definitely
and
don't
you'll
want
be
to be
confident.
you definitely don't want to be making things up, or I will say exaggerating things.
Yes, exaggerating. Yeah. So I
I've heard,
definitely think be authentic
you
and
go.
don't try to change your personality too much, because sooner or later the real you comes out, and you want to make sure you're always presenting yourself, you know.
Yeah, I did hear from one director. They were doing the pageant interviews, and one of the girls was, let's say, exaggerating what she had done, and she actually was claiming that she had got some bill through the Senate or something like that. The problem was that one of the judges, she didn't know this, but one of the judges was actually a politician and had been sitting in that exact room at the same time, and he knew very much that she hadn't done that. So that really didn't end well. I certainly like being authentic, being honest is very important as well. Um,
That's a
but,
crazy story.
let me ask, yeah, I hear everything, but let me ask you this. So the girls that come to you, obviously, I'm assuming they're mainly based in the United States, correct? Okay, so when girls come to me from Australia, because the pageantry here is so small, and very often the girls here enter pageants and they have no idea. They have no idea. All they know is Miss Congeniality or Toddlers and Tiaras, and that's it. Just generally, the girls, because you're living in the States, I assume that pageantry in the States is a bit more, well known. But do the girls who come to you, do they know a little bit more about pageantry? Because sometimes my clients, they starting from literally like square one.
Yes. So I would say the majority, like 99%, know about pageantry, have been
Okay.
following it, have heard about it, have heard about Miss USA, Miss Universe. I would say for sure. You definitely get that rare girl who's like again, Miss only Miss Congeniality. And it's
Yeah.
actually funny. I've met some of those girls like at pageants. They're always like the best attitude. I mean, I just had my first pageant a year ago, but it feels forever ago. But I love that attitude of the first pageant. And yeah, for sure.
Can you tell me, this might be a difficult question for you, but can you tell me where you see yourself in a year from now, or 2 years from now, 5 years from now, or was that impossible?
So a year from now, hopefully with the Miss Universe Israel sash on my chest. And then 2 years from now, I will be 22. So I will have my bachelor's, hopefully, and applying to law school. And then I guess law school is then like 3 years about. And then we'll see from there. But that's where I see myself. And then I think once I'm going into law school, it's gonna become my life. And I don't think I'll have as much time to pursue the pageant stuff. So I think I still have those years before then, and I'm really excited about what I'm doing right now with pageants. And I'm going to keep pursuing it. I'm not going to abandon it, but
Mm.
it's something that I'm going to really work on building up right now because I know that in the coming years I'm going to be really focused on law school.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So in terms of your immediate plans with that, I'm going to say that sash looks really nice as well. But what are your immediate plans with that sash? Because I know that, so you already said that, got eyes on next year. So now we've got like a year timeline to sort of work along. It's not going to be last minute like it was, literally last minute like it was this time. So what's the plan sort of pageant wise for the next year?
Yes. So, of course, every pageant girl watches back their interview tape and their walk and then thinks of 100 criticisms. So, I'm
Hmm.
going to keep those in mind, straighten my knees, take breaths before I speak, and stuff like that. Um, Definitely work on that. The actual competition preparation, I'm going to focus on a lot because I,
Hmm.
I obviously had no prep the day before I found out, So I'm gonna work on the actual competition prep for sure. I know coming in second runner up, I was I was darn close. So I gotta try again, just perfect everything. And in terms of service and community involvement, it's a big part of it. And again, I just got the sash, so a lot of
Yeah.
ideas came to me, but I got to start executing them. And I would like to work with maybe the Israeli consulate in New York, where I don't have definite plans set in stone right now, but again, really work on expanding the platform
Yeah.
and of course educational equity. And I do want to I want to coach a lot of girls this year. I'm open, my calendar is open, so whoever is watching this, if you're new to pageants, I'm the perfect girl for you. You can ask me anything, and I've literally seen everything, heard everything, coach girls through everything. So I'm here for you, and I think that's really like going to be my main focus right now, helping other girls in
Hmm.
pageantry. And that's a quote I love to say. It's through teaching we learn, and that's a big one.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
every girl teaches me something different, and I take a lot from what I learn from them. So
Yeah.
going to keep coaching, keep learning, community involvement. Again, I don't have the definite plans right now because I just got the sash,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, sure.
I know like what I want to do. It's pertaining to the educational equity and the disparities facing my community and the
Yeah.
Israeli community, and of course helping them rebuild since October 7th. I know there's not much we can do, but I think the what I've been doing this year is raising the awareness, and that's a big
Mm,
part of it. A lot of people are unaware or denying of what has been happening. So
yeah.
I think causing bringing awareness and trying as much as we can to donate, help, fundraise, and just be out in the community. And that's my goal for this year.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope by the time that Miss Universe Israel comes by next year that all the hostages are safely back. Well before then, if I'm being
Yes.
honest. In terms of getting the coaching, what's the easiest way to reach out to you for coaching?
So you can always DM me on Instagram at official Mina Levitis, or you could go straight to the website and book at consult-mina.com. And that's the best place to reach me. I'm always
Mhm.
open. DMs are always open. But I think the fastest you'll get to chat with me would be through booking an initial consultation, which is at a special rate right now. And if you're not someone who can meet or you have a very busy schedule, I do offer some online texts and plans that you can follow along at home to
Yeah.
better your confidence, your interview skills, just some skills that even I read all the time because I'm a pageant girl as well, and it's something that again through teaching we learn. So these
Mm,
are all materials that I've used and now I share with other girls. So you can find them all at consultmina.com or going to my Instagram at officialminalevitis.
perfect. So consult-mina.com. And for those of you watching or listening, the link to Mina's Instagram is below, so you can go through there to make it super easy. Mina, we're creeping up on an hour. I just want to be respectful of your time. So just before we get to the final 10, any shout outs you'd like to give?
Go follow at official Mina Levitis on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. And yeah, shout out shout out to me to my Instagram. I don't know. Do girls usually shout out other people?
Oh yeah, I just mean like shout out to. I mean, shouting out yourself is
Yeah.
good. Shouting out maybe your team and the people who supported you along your journey as well.
Yes, of course. I didn't know if the stage is open for that. So yes, of course, I owe the biggest thanks to my family who has supported me through all my craziness and decision changes. And I'm really grateful to the Miss Universe Israel team for the experience last weekend. And I feel like a winner, and I know all the girls do from texting and talking with them. We all feel so happy and like winners. And we are ready for next year. So please make it happen. And shout out to you guys at Miss Universe Israel. And shout out to my family who supported me and all my friends who cheered for me in the audience.
Perfect. How just out of interest, how many girls were competing at Miss Universe Israel?
So I know that we originally had a much bigger group, but then
Okay.
there was a barrage of rockets and missiles from Hezbollah, and girls could not make it.
Right.
And some girls were in the army in Israel, and they couldn't make it because they had to like last second be drafted or something. They had to go
Yeah.
war duties, unfortunately. So I know it was supposed to be more, but because of the contestants in Israel with everything going on, um there was only
Right. I mean,
eight
that's still
eight finalists, but I know that they interviewed many people initially, actually.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not the size that matters. I think
Right.
no matter how many, even if only one person had turned up, I think given everything that's happened over the last year and more than that, I think it was still very important that it happened, particularly for the Jewish community and the country of Israel. So yeah. Anyway, Mina, shall we get to the final 10? We'll go with number one. What is your favorite word?
Well, I really have not been asked these questions before. Now I have to think about it. Okay, let's go multifaceted because it's the best way to describe myself.
Number two. What is your least favorite word?
Oh, everyone hates the word moist.
That's quite a popular one.
Everyone hates that word. And I also recently have been hearing the word like cumbersome, and I'm like, why just use a different word? Like
Number three in life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
pageants.
That's fair enough. What about number four? What turns you off?
Mean people, mean girls.
What sound do you love?
Music.
I was going to ask you
Rain.
because we talked about Jewish stereotypes and Asian stereotypes on my end. You said you're into music. Was that classical music by any chance? Because that would be the full Jew. No, okay. That would be
You
the
know,
full Jewish
actually,
stereotype.
me and my brother grew up with a lot of like heavy metal and rock and roll, actually.
That's
And
very
my
much not a
parents
Jewish
did not like
stereotype.
it.
I'm not surprised. I thought you were going to say, "Oh, classical violin and piano and something like that." No,
No, but
heavy
he is
metal.
like my brother is really good at the all the instruments. Like he could play any strings instrument and he can play drums and piano. I'm not as talented. I'm like okay at guitar and I could play the ukulele and I could kind of play the piano, but I'm not so talented. Yeah. I do enjoy
What,
music though. I wish I could be. Yeah.
what sound do you hate?
Anything like nails on a chalkboard, it's very generic, but it's true. Like I hate it. And this one's weird, but I hate the sound of erasers. Since a kid, I just could not stand the sound of an eraser, like a pencil rubber eraser. Like
Mm,
hate it.
that's a very good impersonation of an eraser
The
sound.
squeak and the I don't like it.
What about if you could have any one superpower? What would you pick and why?
I would love to read people's minds.
I hear that one quite often, and I'm always thinking, like, "Are you sure?" Because you might not want to know what some
Yeah,
certain
but then
people are
I feel like
thinking.
you'd have very thick skin. But but I do want to know what everyone's thinking for sure.
I also think that some people wouldn't be thinking much, and so you just get the sound of silence. But that's
Yeah,
just a conversation.
if you, like, read my mind at, like, most random given moments, you'll just, like, hear me singing in my head or thinking about, like, the most random scenario that happened to me, like, last week, like, it wouldn't be so interesting, but
What job would you most like to attempt? It's going to be a challenging one for you because you've multifaceted, as you said.
if I was good at science, I would love to be a doctor. I mean, it's the core of everything I love, helping people and being empathetic and patient. But I'm just not good at physics and math, and I'm not trying to kill anyone. I'm not trying to kill a patient. That is actually a word that my lab professor used when I took a wrong measurement. He goes, "You just killed a patient." So I'm not trying to do that, and that's why we're pursuing law, where there's no precise measurements.
That's quite a thing for a professor to say. You just kill. What were you
Yes,
measuring?
he screamed that out in front of the class because I did some wrong calculations, and he goes, "That's impossible, like, you just killed a patient."
I come from a family of doctors. I don't remember them measuring anything, but I guess you got to study some of these
We
subjects
were
to become a
measuring,
doctor.
like, medications, and it was really, really simple
Oh,
math, really simple
okay.
math, and
Yeah.
he was like
Yeah, if you get the, like, milligrams or micrograms wrong, yeah, that
Yes,
that
yes,
that could be an issue because it's a
yes,
matter of
that's what it
1,000 times
was.
too much. Okay, alright, okay, so we're on our way to be a lawyer then.
Yes, so
What
if I
about
was good at it, dream job, definitely, like, I love, romanticizing, fantasizing about, being a doctor, but it's not not in the cards for me.
okay, what job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Hmm. I am not sure about that. I feel like that's a hard one for me because I love everything and I've tried everything. But you know what? I don't think I would be so great at like customer service or like being at a restaurant or a waitress or stuff like that because I feel like I forget everyone's orders or I'm clumsy and I would like spill everything. So I that's something I've never had a job, even though I've had like almost every job. I've never been a server or a waitress, and I think that's for a good reason because I would be tripping and spilling and forgetting orders, and people get really mad at me.
It's funny that you said that because I've interviewed so many pageant contestants. A few of them struggle with the clumsiness, let's say. But I just had this idea for a reality show where we get like a bunch of pageant contestants to run a restaurant. So you guys have to do the serving, the cooking, all of that stuff, and I just wonder how it would turn out. I really
I
do.
would have to do the cooking because I would have to just stay in the kitchen and not let anyone see me. Like,
Fair enough. Final question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I thought you were gonna say, "If heaven exists, what does it look like?" And I was so ready to say it's full of cats. But you said, "What does God look like?" What do you think he looks like?
No, what would you
What do you
like
think
to
he'll
hear
say
God say when
what
you
will
arrive?
when I arrive? I think he'll say that he's proud of me because I think he knows I need to hear that.
That would be nice to hear for sure. Uh, well, Mina, it's been a pleasure finally getting to chat with you. Obviously, you've had a bit
Yes.
of a whirlwind last 48, 72 hours,
I haven't
unexpected, but
even
in the best
mentioned
way.
that I had a cold also this whole time since the pageant. It's like the travel cold. So I've like been dealing with so much, but I knew I could not miss this interview. I was so excited and I'm so glad that you finally had me on and I'll come back, you know. I feel like I have so much more to share. So I'm looking forward to speaking again.
Well, a year's time, God willing, you might have another title. Sorry to hear that you had a cold. You literally got the pageant hangover, which is a
Yes,
very real thing. The pageant bug is a real thing, and then that leads to pageant hangover.
for sure.
Um, but I'll keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang out with the audience. But thanks to everyone for watching, and we will
Thank
speak to
you.
you next time. Bye for now.